Run With Chestnut.
Welcome to the Run With Chestnut podcast, where we talk about books, fitness, finance, and anything else on our minds. I need a better intro, but we're going with it. My name is Francesco Magisano. I'm joined today with two of my buddies. Simon, what's up, Simon?
Hello, not much. How are you?
And thanks, I'm good. Melissa, how's it going?
Pretty good.
Okay.
Hello.
Thank you. Or hello. Yes, whatever the proper response is. Anyway, today we are talking about a topic that I feel like there's a lot of confusion around. There's a lot of bro science. There's a lot of advertising, supplement money, all these other things behind it. And it's about how to actually lose body fat. We're not talking about weight, right? How to lose weight, because losing weight might not actually be losing fat, right? We're not talking about losing muscle. We're not talking about losing water weight. We're talking about how to actually lose body fat. This is a very talked about thing, like what do you do? Do you like shake weights and the fat just melts off? Do you stop eating a specific type of food and all of a sudden all the fat goes off your body? Like, what happens? All right, we're going to talk about that. But before we talk about that, folks, Melissa, Simon.
Yes.
I have a question for you guys, because I don't know if you guys know, but very recently there was the Tesla annual shareholder meeting for like investors in Tesla, right? And right after that, they had an event called Battery Day. And this event is kind of like the Apple iPhone launch event, right? It's like Tesla's event where they launch, they announce all their new things and talk about all these things. And so it's like a big, celebration. Everyone's in a parking lot and Tesla's honking horns and, big lot party. And that got me to thinking, and I wanted to pose this question to you guys. And this question is, what technological advancement are you most looking for within the next, say, 10 years? And I ask this because there's a lot of technologies that are being promised, but, who knows if any of them will happen. But let's assume that all the ones that are being promised will happen. What are we actually looking forward to? Who wants to go?
Since you brought up Tesla.
Okay, go ahead, Simon.
Oh, did you want it to turn?
No. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say the whole self-driving car thing.
Self-driving cars, first of all, it's very hyped in the blind community, right? Us as blind people, everyone's like, yeah, it'd be awesome, self-driving cars. Like,
I say that, and yet I'm very skeptical, but go on.
No, I'm just saying it's very like talked. Like every blind convention I've ever been to has a whole like seminar panel on autonomous driving, which just means driverless vehicles. Anyway, go on. Why are you excited about self-driving cars?
Excited? Well, because if it actually will work for blind people, I'd be able to drive a car. Well, theoretically speaking.
Okay, what excites you the most about being able to drive a car? Like, what would you want to do? What's the most exciting thing for you?
Ooh. Okay, I can go.
And I'm going to ask this question to you too, Melissa. So, but
I can go. Okay, a couple of things. I can go from place to place without calling Ubers and doing all that, or even relying on paratransit.
Okay.
And depending on how good the cars are, I can take road trips and go elsewhere.
Very fun. Melissa?
I think honestly my thing is more in the realm of road trips too, or just like...
So you would get like a self-driving van.
Well, maybe... Ooh, wait, what about... what are those called? The house car.
RV, self-driving RV. Wow, that's next level.
Yeah,
I would definitely get that.
I mean, I was just gonna say like day trips and stuff like that, or like places where I don't know, like I want to go to Six Flags. I like my roller coasters, and I feel like it's always so like convoluted to get there if you don't drive.
Can you imagine like living in a self-driving RV in the parking lot of Six Flags?
Oh, God.
That'd be pretty insane.
Living off of park food, too, maybe.
Living off of park food, yes. No,
well,
honestly,
you'd probably need a lot of help with today's topic with all the junk food that you're probably going to eat there.
Very true. Losing fat. Very well done. I didn't even think about self-driving RVs, but that's a very good idea. I think if I had
nobody has to know anything, where you are, where
Right, you just live anywhere. That's your rent.
Yeah.
What I'm excited for is having a self-driving vehicle so that it could drive your dog around the neighborhood, and you wouldn't have to like take it on drives. Because can you imagine like pulling up to a light and looking over, and there's no one in the car. There's just like a dog just with his tongue like wagging out the window, just like looking around.
Yeah, I'll believe it.
Yeah. I think that's awesome. There's a lot of talk about like people making money while they like passive income actually too with driverless vehicles like ride sharing. Because think about like when you're sleeping, like if self-driving actually happened, you could like while you're sleeping, while you're at work, you can literally like have your car driving people around, like being basically Uber. Like that's sort of the business model. I mean, that's what Uber eventually wants, right? Like they want to get rid of their drivers and have like a all robot fleet robo-taxi, right? That's the whole deal. So
That's still, yeah. I mean, the whole concept, as much as I am excited for it, it's still kind of creepy in a way.
it's very creepy.
Yeah.
Can you so this is a whole other thing. Like the interior of a car, right? The way it's designed has not changed once in the entire history of automobiles. Right? Because it's always centered around a driver with a wheel and pedals facing forwards. Right? So the entire history of cars, vehicles for the past 100 years more, that design has not changed until now.
Aren't limos kind of like facing?
Yeah, but not the front. You know? But with driverless vehicles, you can literally change the entire front. You can have like two benches facing each other, like one in the front, one in the back, like a small, regular sized car, you know?
Right.
Like you don't
You
need
have,
to
like, a
face forward
round
anymore.
table.
Yeah, you can have a round table in the middle with like a bench in the front facing back and a bench in the back facing front, you know?
Right.
But anyway, just things I think about. I feel like it's if it ever happens, we'll see. I mean, there's a lot of forget about the technology. There's so much like legal issues and regulations that would have to happen or unhappen for this sort of technology to become prevalent. You know,
I mean, although I do you really see though that I think people, no matter what happens, I think there will always be people who prefer to still drive.
yes, but I feel like they will be in the same category as people today who prefer to drive stick shift instead of automatic, where it's like it's viewed as an art. Like it's viewed as like, oh, you know, I want to listen to my music on vinyl instead of on Apple Music streaming or Spotify.
Yeah,
it's like that, right? Like, oh, I want to drive my car. Will be same thing as I'm going to the record shop and buying a record on vinyl.
Maybe it'll take a while for us to get there, but
it will. But I feel, you know, we'll see.
There's old people, like I know, young, fairly young, you know, my age or whatever, people who are just like, no, driving makes me nervous or whatever. So, you know.
Now, what happened with Tesla recently?
What do you mean? What happened with them?
Oh, I heard there were like some accident or something lately. I thought I heard that. But
Not that I've heard. I mean, there's and there'll always be accidents, obviously, but I feel like people like the fear of a self-driving vehicle hitting someone because like the computer didn't realize something. It's definitely valid, but I feel like there are so many car accidents that happen every single day in this country that if for example, like if every single car automatically became self-driving, I feel like the number of accidents would go way down. Like they would still happen, but way down. I mean, think about it. You remove drunk driving, you remove people falling asleep at the wheel, you remove like all the human errors you remove.
That's true.
Right? Like so many, like thousands of people die in car accidents. And it's just like the norm. You know, I don't know like exactly how many, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
Though, I mean, you know, there's always like, what if there's a malfunction? What if, like, would you have to have all of the roads or do roads have to do anything to support this kind of thing? Or
no,
like, you could take a self-driving car here then to Montenegro?
I believe it's a mixture of built-in AI that'll like figure out what the roads and the lights and different things are. A mixture of that and a mixture of mapping. You know, that's yeah. And there are a lot of companies trying to do self-driving, right? Obviously, Tesla's like the clear company in the lead right now. But you have Google with millions of miles. You have a lot of traditional car manufacturers trying to do like a hybrid or some sort of self-driving situation, you know. And you have a bunch of private companies too. So, and like Uber is investing a lot in self. So there's a lot of different people trying to do it, and they're doing it slightly different ways. But you know,
are there Uber Teslas in New York City? I still have yet to be in one.
Well, I mean, any car can be an Uber car.
No, I mean, I know, but I mean, what I'm trying to say is, has Uber had Teslas in like New York City area?
I don't know. I mean, you know how to become an Uber driver, right? Like anyone can sign up.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, so if someone who owns a Tesla wants to become an Uber driver, then yes, there's a Tesla Uber driver car.
Okay, right.
But anyway, interesting discussion. We'll see what happens. Announced today, and there's a lot of things that like are announced by Tesla, and they may or may not happen. But announced today is that in a month or so from now, or not today, but when the shareholder meeting happened, a month from then, there will be a public beta on full autonomous driving released to certain Tesla cars.
Wow.
So we'll see. First of all, we'll see if it happens, and if it does happen, we'll see like what happens with it, right?
Yeah.
So super cool things, guys. Anyway, let's get on to the topic of losing body fat.
Because
how about we start? Well,
the amusement park.
Say again?
Because you're living outside the amusement park.
We are living outside of Six Flags in an RV. We just gained a lot of body fat. How do we lose it?
Yep.
You guys tell me if you've heard this. So the going back to, you know, the golden age of bodybuilding, which is like the 70s and all through like the Olympia stuff, 80s, 90s, you had Dorian Yates, all the way up to modern gym like promos and marketing and things like that. I feel like the most common theme or phrase or whatever that's been thrown around is just eat less than you burn.
Yeah.
Right? That's a pretty common thing that people hear.
Yeah.
Which is technically true. If you eat less than you burn, you're in what's called a caloric deficit.
Yep.
A calorie deficit, right? Which means technically you're going to burn fat. Now, while this is true, I feel like it's a very broad, not specific thing, and there's a lot of other things that's like it's like half the story. You know what I mean? So we're not saying it's not true. Obviously, if you eat less than you burn, for the vast majority of people, you'll start losing weight. But there are other things you can do to really emphasize and promote not only not only weight loss, but specifically fat loss. Because like we could lose muscle, we could lose obviously water weight, like glycogen, things like that. Like there's a lot of things we could lose that we don't want to lose, right? Who wants to lose weight by keeping our fat the same and losing muscle? That's not ideal, right. Exactly. Anyway, so Simon, you researched this a bit, right?
I did.
What'd you find on the internet?
Lifting. Okay, so first I found that lifting weights helps because it helps increase your metabolism, and they say that. So they said that people think that the more cardio you do, then the more weight you lose, or the more fat you would lose. But they're saying that doing cardio actually gets your body to get used to the amount of calories you eat, therefore it doesn't actually burn as much as you think. And they say that lifting weights actually is what helps lose fat.
So I feel like, so there's in terms of the exercise world, right? There's two different things you can do generally. There's strength training and cardio. Cardio being like running and biking or swimming or anything like that. Strength training being lifting weights or resistance training. Mm-hmm. Let's call it resistance training because that's more accurate. Generally speaking, resistance training speeds up your metabolism. Cardio the whole point of endurance training or cardio is that your body's trying to adapt to that stimulus, right?
Yeah.
And by trying to adapt to an endurance or cardio stimulus, it slows your metabolism down because it's trying to make your body more efficient, right? That's that's what it's trying to do. Making your body more efficient to whatever adaptation is presented to you is your whole body's purpose, right? When you resistance train, your body's trying to make you stronger. How does it make you stronger? It builds more muscle. By building more muscle, it increases your metabolism, right? By doing cardio, by running, biking and things. And this is not like a hate session on cardio, right? We all do cardio.
Yeah.
So, we're all a proponent of it. But if all you do is cardio, then the signal that you're sending to your body is basically become more efficient, use less resources. So basically try to slim down as much as possible. And a lot of times that comes from muscle because muscle is very expensive for the body to maintain because it takes a lot of calories. It takes a lot of maintenance. So if your body doesn't need the muscle, if you don't use it, it's going to try to get rid of it, right? So the step one on how to lose body fat is actually sending your body the correct signal to build muscle. Because if you're sending the signal to build muscle, it's not going to get rid of the muscle, right? So the calories have to come from somewhere else other than the muscle, i.e. this is where the fat comes in. So you don't have to resistance train a ton, even like once or twice a week, doing a whole body, a full body resistance training session, even just like 30, 45 minutes, will send the signal to your body that you need that muscle. And so to not get rid of it, even build it some, right? Which will then in turn speed up your metabolism because the more muscle you carry on your body, the higher metabolism will be, which means the more calories you are able to consume before that starts to become a surplus and you start gaining weight, right? So we'll try to let's like also try to simplify this as much as possible. So basically the whole point is do resistance training at least once or twice a week to send that signal to your body to not actually lose the muscle, to actually build the muscle so that it uses your fat for fuel. Continue.
And that's with cardio, even with doing cardio, right?
Whether or not you do cardio, it's good to do resistance training to send that signal. Yeah. No, so now the second half of that, training thing is now cardio. People who do chronic cardio tend to be like the whole, the skinny fat look, where you're not exactly fat,
but you don't really have a lot of muscle and you kind of look flabby, right? Like this, it's a look. It's called a skinny fat look, right? A lot of endurance athletes have that skinny fat look. I'm pretty sure I do.
No, but the reason for that is they're not out of shape, right? They're active. They're doing this chronic cardio consistently day after day. So they're burning the calories, but there's no muscle on the body. So you just kind of look flappy and
right.
not the way you would want to look, right?
Right.
And obviously when we talk about appearance, it's all subjective, but generally speaking, when someone's trying to look up how to lose fat, if you're already super skinny, by the way, like people often ask like, okay, if I'm already super skinny, but I still have like some fat on me, how do you get rid of that? Right. And it's kind of a trick question because the answer is actually not, well, you got to like keep on dieting so you lose the rest of that fat. The answer is actually, well, you might want to build some muscle so that your muscle to fat ratio changes. And then it becomes so much easier to lose the rest of that fat, because you actually have something on your body, Obviously, again, we're trying to keep this as simple as possible, but does that make sense, guys?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if at all possible, and we'll get into later, how do you do this if you're like, as an endurance athlete, obviously I can't be like, oh, well, okay, if I'm not supposed to do cardio, I'll only train endurance like 2-3 times a week, right? I can't do that because I'm racing. So we'll talk about how to actually manage it if you have to do cardio a ton. But for most people, you don't actually have to do cardio a ton. So switch it up a little bit, introduce some resistance training to complement the cardio. Do you have any comments before we move on?
No.
Say again?
No.
Okay, cool.
Nope.
Cool. And then
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You said resistance training. Now, do you want to quickly just go into the type of resistance training? Because there's probably like two kinds.
Sure. Well, I don't know. What do you mean two kinds?
How do I? There's the one that you would do. There's like lower reps, higher weight, higher reps, lower.
I mean, yes, we can get into that.
Like, does that matter?
No. I mean, you're splitting hairs, right? If you're not doing any sort of resistance training, just do something. Do something that you like, whatever.
Okay, cool.
But that actually, let's actually outline a very basic resistance training program for people, right? Super basic. We're talking,
Squat.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking like whole body strength movements with preferably a barbell. If not a barbell, you can use other weights, right? A dumbbell set or something. But like a squat, a barbell back squat, an overhead press, deadlifts, bent over barbell row, like those 4 movements, let's say, right? And if all you do is 3 sets of anywhere from 4 to 8 reps, let's say, of those 4 movements, and you do that, once, maybe twice a week, that's sending a pretty powerful signal to your body that, hey, we need this muscle. If anything, let's build more muscle, and let's maybe get rid of some of this fat because we need some energy to fuel this. You know what I mean? Awesome tangent, Simon. One other thing I will connect with this whole like working out thing, right? Part 1 is resistance training. Part 2 is a chronic cardio. Step 3 is actually something called NEAT or LISS. NEAT is an acronym, stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis. LISS stands for low intensity steady state, as in the cardio. Whatever acronym you choose to use, all it means, and we'll use NEAT for now, but all it means is just movement throughout the day, right? If all you do is work out for 1 hour from 7 to 8 a.m., and then for the rest of the day, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., you're basically sitting on a couch, sitting in front of a computer, not really moving. You're not really setting your body up for using the fuel that you consume for anything other than just storing it as body fat, right? And so the most common way that this is personified in people is step count, because people are like, oh, get your 10,000 steps in a day. It means you're actually active. You're moving throughout the day. I think step count's a very basic way to do it, but it's a very effective way because it's very easy to quantify, and anyone could look on their phones or their watches or anything like that if you have a smartwatch and figure out what your daily step count is. Do you guys, by any chance, I doubt it, but you guys have any idea what your daily step count is?
No. Although, if I get my next Apple Watch,
That's true. If you get the Apple Watch, you can check.
I think if I pace, it could be around 2,000.
Okay, so that's
maybe
a start.
How much should it be?
You're so kind.
Yeah, the average. Well, let's put it this way: if you guys look at what your daily step count is over the course of the past week, right? A good place to start, maybe just add 1,000 steps to that, and just go from there, right? And every week, just add another 1,000. The common goal that I see tossed around by a lot of different people, either have like Fitbits, whatever like that, is 10,000 steps. And 10,000 steps generally you can do. You take a walk take like a 30-minute walk in the morning. You're like walking around your apartment or house during the day a little bit, and maybe another like 30-minute walk in the evening. That should get you about 9,000-10,000 steps.
Then that's probably me.
It's a pretty chill. 10 for an active person. Well, okay, maybe it's a little less than that, but for an active person, getting 10,000 steps, I don't feel like is a very hard thing to do. But whatever metric you use, it's that idea of moving throughout the day, right? But anyway, so that's the third part of this, and again, all this complements it, or all this what this trying to do is build a bigger metabolic engine, meaning raise your metabolism, increase the amount of muscle mass you have on your body. And even for women, that does not mean women become like this massive bodybuilder thing, right? Like all it is that you'll look more fit, because what muscle does, it doesn't make you look bulky. It just defines the lines more, if that makes sense,
So what? But
You
that
could-
isn't the whole point.
Well, you could do specific workouts to look aesthetically bulky, right, Jessica?
For women,
But
I would say most women, even if you spend every single day in the gym, like people like, the common, and we'll do like female fitness myths, like a whole episode on that, because I feel like that's a very interesting topic to discuss.
Yeah.
But most of the women that I have at least spoken to, their biggest sort of hesitant, or the biggest reason why they're hesitant to go in the gym and lift weights is that they don't want to build muscles. Like, they don't want to look like they have built muscles, right? And I would argue that most women, if they go to the gym even every single day, they will not get to a point where, like, they wake up one morning and they're like, oh my God, I have these big muscles. You know what I mean? Like, it does not happen. Even for men, it doesn't happen that fast.
Yeah. No,
like, we would kill for it to happen that fast. It would be amazing if it happened that. It just does not. It takes months and months and months. And for women, it takes even longer most of the time. Again, obviously, there are genetic anomalies and stuff like that. So, if there's ever a point where you go to the gym, you're at the gym and it's like, okay, I don't have to build any more muscle, then you don't have to lift any more weights. But it's not going to be like an overnight thing where it's like, oh my God, I have these massive muscles. And I know we're kind of going off on a tangent, but the whole point of this is, even if you're a woman, I wouldn't necessarily avoid lifting just because you're worried about building these big muscles, because you're not going to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense, Melissa?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So, so that's the focus, right? The focus and those three sort of physical steps to do. The focus is just get your body in a position where you have this muscle. Because again, another benefit of raising metabolism is you take someone who, let's say their daily calorie intake, the daily caloric intake is, say, 2,000 calories, right? Which is like supposedly the average American diet, whatever. Let's say it's about 2,000. Well, okay, you're on your regular eating thing, and all of a sudden you have an extra slice of cake that's like 500 calories, more than you normally do. All of a sudden you eat 2,500 calories, you're 500 calories over. That could be, that's a bigger deal than, let's say, my daily calorie intake is about 4,000 or 5,000 calories. And again, I mean, I work out, I'm an athlete and stuff, but just an example, let's say like my daily calorie intake is 5,000 calories. If I go 500 calories over, it almost doesn't really mean anything. Versus if my daily calorie intake was only 2,000 and I went over 500, it's a lot bigger of a deal,
So basically, you're just plainly saying that if you do stuff like this, you can eat more food.
Oh, definitely, you can eat more food.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
like,
yes,
because the argument...
practical benefits, Francesco, come on.
No, exactly. Well, think about it, because a lot of people, when they think they want to lose weight or lose body fat, they eat less, right? They're restricting their calories. I'm saying, instead of restricting your calories from 2,000, say, to 1,500, which all of a sudden you're like not eating anything throughout the day, instead of restricting your calories to 1,500, keep your calories the same and just do more.
See, that is like... So
I feel like we should have started with
that. Yeah, because so many people are, the whole thing is like, oh man, I have to like cut down on my food, and I love my cake, and I love fries and burgers, and it's like but I mean, it takes, I guess, I'm gonna use the word discipline, or just it takes a lot of motivation to stick to staying active if that's not what you normally do. But I mean, if you love food that much and you want to stay fit, then
I mean, I don't know if that's to say keep eating your fries and cake, though, is it?
Well,
listen, if you eat a certain way, right, and your movement is a certain way, if you keep that food exactly the same and increase your movement, you're going to lose weight.
Oh.
Even if what that food is like fries and cake and stuff. Even if that's what it is. If you stay at a certain weight, at a certain level of movement, if you increase that level of movement, you're going to lose the weight if you keep the food the same. Right? And I would much rather have someone lose weight by keeping their total calories the same and increasing what they do. That's a lot healthier of a way to lose weight than just decreasing what they consume over the day in terms of calories.
Right.
You know, it's a more sustainable way to lose weight. It's a healthier way to lose weight. And I mean, everything in the above, you know?
Yeah.
The other theory that's thrown around a lot is cardio burns more calories than resistance training. Therefore, I should do cardio because in a 30-minute run, I'll burn more calories than if I lift it for 30 minutes, right? And while it's true, you will burn more if you do cardio within those 30 minutes. But the thing that they don't really take into consideration, and this was really hyped for a while, because I'm trying to remember what the concept was called. Not thermogenesis. I don't remember, but the whole hype marketing was like, oh well, if you resistance train, the afterburn effect. I think that's what they were calling it. The afterburn effect. It was like a whole marketing thing. But I mean, it's rooted in fact, sort of, where if you do 30 minutes of cardio, you burn all the calories, but then the moment you stop doing the cardio, you stop burning the calories, right? Versus weightlifting, if you do a heavy lifting session for 30 minutes, you burn the calories during that lifting session, but then you also continue to burn those calories for the next 48 hours while your body is trying to adapt and build the muscle that it will take to like repair, you know, what you broke down. Basically, resistance training, besides being more sustainable, it actually, in the long run, like at the big picture, it actually burns more calories than cardio. So that's a basic step. Any comments, guys?
No.
Well, just that it's so much. I'm just thinking back on the whole eating less, you know, and moving same versus moving more and eating the same. And it's like, there's this aversion, which I'm not exempt from, you know, aversion to actually staying fit. Now I'm talking in a perspective of someone who doesn't, and I, you know, think that I encounter more people like this, but, you know, it's so strong that it's like, oh, I'm going to start, maybe not starve myself, but I'm going to deprive myself of food, of the amount of food that I want, just to get out of, you know, actually moving, when moving and eating the same would actually be so much healthier. And you still get to eat, you know, it's just kind of mind blowing. I don't really know what the comment was, except it's fascinating. Kind of backwards.
I feel like, especially for women, the first thing when they're like, I want to lose weight, the first step is I must go on a diet, right?
Yeah.
That's like the first thing. I mean, even in the sporting community, when we talk about race weight, which for those who don't know, race weight is basically, you know, you do your training, you're at a certain weight, and then before a race, you lose some weight so that you're lighter, so that you go faster, right? This whole idea of race weight. Mm-hmm. Even with race weight, a lot of people, even professionals, will try to cut so much weight that they literally blunt their performance. You know? Yeah, so, and I know, I mean, it's a slightly different concept, but the whole idea of losing weight to gain performance, whether the performance is speed while racing or the performance is losing body fat, the idea of cutting weight, like just leave the weight the same, or, you know, in this case, leave the calories the same. Just introduce introduce more movement, you know?
Yeah. Because if you do less, then, I mean, isn't your mood and your health and like a whole bunch of things going to be affected if you all of a sudden, I don't know, just either take out certain foods, just cold turkey,
yes.
or
if you try to lower what you eat, you will most certainly notice that difference, right? You'll be hungrier, you'll like crave stuff, you'll want stuff. Versus if you eat exactly the same amount, you just move a little more, you might not even notice. You probably won't even notice that you're in a caloric deficit, even though you are in a caloric deficit, because you're basically eating the same that you're normally eating.
Yeah. You're just moving more.
Shout out to Andrew.
Yeah.
Can you pretend not to be hungry by chugging water?
So there's a section in this episode where we're going to go over tips, and that's actually one of them, but we could talk about that now. Basically, when people are when people are thirsty, a lot of times that comes out in the feeling of hunger. So if you're hungry and, you know, you're not near a meal, or you don't really think you should be eating, whatever the case is. Anytime you feel hungry, just drink water. And chances are your hunger will either go away or diminish by a lot.
Yep.
So, yeah, drink lots of water. But,
Thanks, Andrew.
Drinking water is good for everyone, right? But this is another side benefit. Cool.
Oh, do you want to actually go into just quickly, since we said drink water, how much water does a person need every day?
That's a very controversial subject, Simon.
Oh, okay.
That's a very controversial subject.
I thought there was a standard answer.
No, there is no standard answer. I would argue that most people do not drink as much as they should drink.
Yeah.
In the sporting community, there is controversy on how much water you should drink because some people claim to be overhydrated. But I think for the vast majority of the everyday person, there is a lot of dehydration, and we could talk about like coffee being worth, 1 cup of coffee equals half a cup of water. We could do all these types of different conversion things like that. Honestly, I wouldn't even bother. Just figure out how much water you want to drink a day and just drink that much water. I personally, I sweat a lot, especially when I work out. It would not be, a gallon of water is easy for me to drink in a day. And that's on top of, my, like morning coffee or tea or whatever it is and different things. I would challenge anyone who's listening to just, if you're not someone who thinks about hydration normally, just increase your daily intake by, 2-3 cups and just see how you feel. Chances are you'll feel better.
Yeah. I know I do.
Hydration will not only help you lose weight, it'll make your hair a lot, thicker and nicer. It'll make your skin look a lot better. It'll help your mood. It'll do a lot of good things. Drink water, guys. It's nice.
Yeah.
It's helpful.
Yeah.
And real quick, from an athletic standpoint, let me just touch, because I feel like now I've sparked this question. The reason why you should not overdrink water if you're an athlete is because your balance. I should have done some research into this, but I forgot the name. But basically, your balance of the electrolytes and your water goes out of whack, right? So you go into this state where you don't have enough. Usually it's salt, and you have other electrolytes, but usually it's sodium. In ratio with the water, which is why if someone is completely, if someone drinks only water during a super hot race, they sweat a whole ton, they can get into a not very good state, right? They could shut down, which is why you drink electrolytes when you work out. This is more of a long-term thing, not really a chronic thing, but anyway. Moving on. So the 3 big like physical things, right? Lift weights to send that anabolic signal. Don't do chronic cardio, meaning endless amounts of cardio, hours and hours of it, because that sends the wrong signal, the exact opposite signal that we want. And number 3, increase NEAT, which is just daily movement. And a good rule of thumb is 10,000 steps daily, or just whatever you're doing plus 1,000, and increase that every week. The next 2 are pretty simple and self-explanatory. Lower stress and increase sleep. So I feel like that's pretty straightforward, right? Stress will, like, you might think stress and fat loss is completely unrelated, but it is completely related. It is almost impossible to lose body fat if you are in a hyper stress situation, because your body will just naturally try to hold on. Because fat to your body is a resource, right? In the past, fat stopped your body from starving to death or whatever, right? Like, fat was a good resource historically. So your body, when it's stressed, it'll recognize that stress and make it almost impossible to lose body fat, especially if you're already somewhat lean. It'll make it almost impossible to lose that body fat. So
is this where stress eating comes in?
Stress. So you're talking about stress being the cause of the weight gain because you're eating more, right? Which is very, very true and happens to a lot of people.
Yep.
What I'm talking about is stress being the reason why people cannot lose body fat. Even if they're in a caloric deficit, people sometimes cannot lose body fat. They'll just lose. They'll just feel bad,
Well,
and
yeah. Oh no. Well, I guess I was just confused as to, like, is there some kind of connection where, like, you feel like you need to eat even though you aren't actually hungry when you're stressed?
No. I mean, literally, stress will not let your body lose fat. I don't mean stress will like make you eat more. It has nothing to do with you eating more or less. You know, you being in a hyper stress state will, first of all, it'll blunt muscle gain, which is another bad thing because we want to build this metabolic engine. But it just does not make it possible for your body to lose fat. So if at all, and we're talking chronic stress, right? Obviously, like exercise is a stress on your body, but it's an acute stress. And it's a stress that your body uses to adapt, to create adaptations to increase, whether it's gain muscle or lose body fat. So acute stresses are fine in those cases. We're talking chronic stress, right? Constantly, month after month, worrying about paying bills or kids or illnesses or health conditions or, all these things that are in our lives we think are unrelated to physical performance, but they are absolutely related, right?
Yep.
One of the biggest difference between professional athletes and amateur athletes is the fact that professional athletes, because that's their job and they're getting paid to do that, they don't have to worry about jobs and making deadlines and things like that. And obviously professional athletes, they have other stresses to worry about. They have family and whatever, but that's like one thing less. And the difference that one thing less makes is a huge difference. Like absolutely. I've noticed in myself, I'm sure anyone has noticed, if you're facing something stressful, you just do not perform as well.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So this is pretty self-explanatory. And then the next thing, increase sleep, just get better sleep. If you do not sleep, your body does not have a chance to make those metabolic changes. Your body does not recover exactly. It doesn't actually build the muscle.
Previous episode.
Yeah, previous episode. It doesn't actually lose fat. So listen to the previous episode on how to improve your sleep. But basically, yes, lower the stress, increase the sleep. And I know it's a lot easier said than done, but anyone can work on it. Anyway, cool.
By making a goal.
Yes, by making a goal, which relates to another episode that we recently did about goal making.
Yep.
See, all it all connected, guys.
So,
connections. I feel like we need a T-shirt that says connections. Cool. So those 5 things, I think 5 things. Yeah, 5 things.
Yeah.
Are the big rocks, let's say, right? Those are where you should start. Now, some tips. We talked about drinking water as a tip. Another tip is when it comes time. Now, there is a time and a place to be in a caloric deficit, meaning eating less than you burn. Most people should not be in a caloric deficit for a prolonged period of time, right? Because then you'll adapt to that. Once you're sort of advanced, like you're sort of down the road, right? You put muscle on, your metabolism is high. There are these things called mini bulks and cuts, where it's basically you're in a caloric deficit, but only for a short period of time. A short period of time being 2 to 3 weeks, right? Say my base calorie, and this is more for like people like appearance, right? Aesthetics, physique athletes, people who are not endurance athletes, right? Where let's just say 2,000 calories, right? Let's just say your daily intake is 2,000 calories and you raise that to 20 you keep it at 2,000, but you increase how much you do, right? So your maintenance calories become, say, 2,300 calories, right? Because you're actually building more muscle, so it takes more calories to maintain that. You're increasing your movement, so it takes more calories to do. So basically, your base level caloric intake on a daily basis becomes, say, 2,300 calories, right? If you eat 2,300, exactly 2,300, you're not going to gain or lose. It's exactly on balance. Make sense, guys, so far?
Yep.
Okay. A mini bulk and cut would look something like this, where basically, if you're trying to maintain, you're basically trying to stay around 2,300, right? Some days you're 24, some days you're 22, whatever, but you're around 23, and that's how you kind of stay the same, maybe build a little more muscle, lose a little more fat, but that's basically it. If you're trying to get into a short caloric deficit, which again, this is like a more advanced thing, I don't think most people, within the first year of working out, need to worry about this. But we're just talking about it briefly because, it's kind of talked about by a lot of people, where basically for a 2 to 3 week period of time, you drop that calorie from 2,300 down to 2,000. So you're only in a 300 caloric deficit, even down to 1,800, at most 1,800. And you basically keep it there for like 2 to 3 weeks, where within the week, you are down there for, say, 5-6 days of the week, and then you bump it back up for one day down to like maintenance, 2,300. the whole idea being is that you don't want to, for the same reason why it's good to increase your calories for a prolonged period of time, because you'll encourage that adaptation. You don't want to lower the calories and diet for a long period of time, because if you do, you'll get all the negative stuff like lower metabolism or slower metabolism, which then gets you back to where you were before. All this is very confusing, a lot of technical things. I say all of this just to point out that if you do want to start eating a little less, don't cut a lot at once. Don't go from 2,300 down to 1,300, and don't do it for a super long period of time. Meaning, if you only go down to 1,800, don't stay there for like 6 months. Just bounce around a little bit, if that makes sense. Maybe we can go in more depth with that in the future episodes. But does it make sense, guys? Any questions or can I?
No.
I think we
all good.
Yes.
All right, man. I need to figure out a way to mute this thing. Anyway, the last thing that I think we should touch on is something that has become a little more popular in the the health and wellness community. And it's the idea of fasting or intermittent fasting, restricted eating windows, right?
Yeah. Oh, actually, before we do that, did we touch on how to lose weight for endurance athletes or fat?
No. Let's touch on. Yeah, we'll get that. We'll do that.
Oh, okay.
So this last tip about restricted eating windows. I would be, first of all, if you as a person has any sort of history with eating disorders or like an unhealthy relationship with food, I would not go anywhere near the beginning, just because you are technically restricting the times with which you eat. And for some people, it doesn't really matter. For other people, it could really either trigger them or something could, So just be aware that you are you are basically restricting how much you eat or the times around what you eat. But the basic concept of this intermittent fasting is you basically have a window of a number of hours within a day that you're allowed to eat. So most common is say an 8-hour eating window, which means between noon and 8 p.m., I'm going to eat all my food. And starting 8 p.m. all the way till noon the next morning, I don't eat anything or drink anything other than water. Yeah. So 0 calories, right?
Yep.
And there's a lot of science to support the benefits of a restricted eating window. We don't have to go into all that science now, but everything from, and again, I really would not view this as a weight loss tool, because I would not, I don't want the connection drawn between somehow not eating and losing weight, because I feel like that's not a very healthy thing to build. And it's not really true, because you're technically supposed to eat the same amount of calories. It's just within a restricted window. But health benefit wise, cellular autophagy, which is basically like dead cell, like the killing off cells that you don't really use, which could be like anti-cancerous. There's a lot of benefits to restricted eating. But so we'll keep it on the basics. But basically, it's where you eat within a window. Simon, you've done this. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I have. I haven't really noticed anything, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what if you do that, but also do some kind of physical activity?
When do you do the physical activity?
I don't know. I'm thinking of someone I know.
Oh, okay. Well, are you asking in terms of do you do the physical activity before you start, outside of the eating window? Or just combine in general?
I don't know when this person does it, but I just mean can you lose weight in a healthy way if you're doing this and also working out? But
you definitely can. Now, usually why people lose weight when they start doing this restricted eating window is that they just don't eat as much as they normally do. And that could either be because they stop late night snacking or early morning, they just don't, they literally just don't eat as much. Which, if that's not, if you eat the exact same calories in and out of an eating window, your overall weight should be the same. It's not like all of a sudden just because you combine it all into one window that you're going to lose a bunch of weight, right? This isn't supposed to be a weight loss technique. It's a health technique, right? The idea is that you become a healthier person, not that you become a skinnier person.
Right.
A lot of athletes, even endurance athletes, aesthetic athletes, will inject this sort of restricted eating window sporadically. So like once a week on an off day, say on Sundays or something, people will do like a restricted eating window just to get those health benefits, but without the negative impacts on performance. Because again, you are eating less, so you might not be fueling your workouts as much, or it's complicated. It's hard to like talk about every possible thing on a short podcast episode, But anyway, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Any follow-ups, Melissa?
No.
Yeah. So, restrict. Intermittent fasting. If you do it, don't identify with it. I feel like there's a lot of people who are like, "Oh my God, this works so awesome," and then they just do it every day. Which again, if you're doing something, just like being in a caloric deficit, I would not, just because something works, I would not necessarily do that every single day just because you found it to work. You know what I mean? Just inject it here and there, make it sporadic.
Right.
Don't let your body adapt to it. Is basically what I'm saying.
Yep.
Which your body can definitely adapt to restricted eating windows. Cool. Okay, so those are 4 tips and 5 sort of big steps, right? Big different things you can use to lower body fat. Now, Simon, you mentioned lowering body fat for endurance athletes, right? So obviously we just got done saying don't do a bunch of cardio if you want to lose body fat, because you lower your metabolism, you slow down your metabolism, you're going to hold on to fat, you're going to become like the skinny fat marathon runner, right? Which is very stereotypical marathon runner look, where it's like very skinny fat. Sometimes you have to do cardio. So I do a bunch of cardio. Simon, you do a bunch of cardio.
Yep.
The same principles will apply. And what I mean by that is doing resistance training, even once a week, which most endurance I would argue any endurance athlete should be doing strength training, because it just makes you a stronger athlete. Yep. So even if you are an endurance athlete, you should still be doing strength training. That will do a lot of benefit, both from a metabolic standpoint and from a muscle standpoint. It won't make you massively ripped because you're still doing a bunch of cardio, so your body will still slim down on the muscle, but you're not, you're not gonna lose it all, and your metabolism will still sort of maintain. So that's step 1, resistance training. Step 2, don't restrict your calories. Fuel the work that you're trying to do, and this is especially for endurance athletes who work out every single day. They think, oh, I'm trying to lose weights, or I'm doing all this cardio, so I'm burning all the calories. A lot of times, again, even professionals, especially, more than like 10 years ago, they would try to get more performance by making themselves as light as possible, right? We talked about this, about the eating stuff.
Yep.
And because they want to be as light as possible, they'll eat as little, not as little as possible, but basically they'll restrict their calories. Make sense? And the worst time to do this is actually during your workout, which a lot of people do. They're like, oh, my mind is, I think it's because they connect the workout with the being healthy, the quote unquote healthy time. So it's like, oh, it's time for my workout. Let me not eat anything, right? Which is the absolute last thing you want to do. Like, if anything, fuel the performance and then diet, or like don't, eat a little less on the other times, if that makes sense, Again, I feel like we're there's so much to say about this that you could literally devote 100 episodes to talk about sports, about all this. So,
but so basically, for athletes who are endurance athletes and they still want to lose fat, basically just lift weights.
Literally do what we just talked about for other people.
Yeah.
Lift weights. Don't necessarily restrict calories all the time. If you have to restrict calories, do it right before a race, and do a little bit of it. Like, don't go crazy. Right. If anything, if you want to help with body composition as an athlete or as an active person, work on what you eat, not how much you eat of it. But yeah, I mean,
but now they said so.
Well, and one more thing, and just understand that if you after listening to all of this, and you still choose to do a whole bunch of cardio, understand that is the reason why you are not building a ton of muscle. Like, if people want to be a fast runner and have ripped biceps, like, you cannot have both. You cannot be a pro at both. You can have okay at both. You can have like decent arms and decent speed, but not as much as if you had only concentrated on one of those things. And all that is determined by genetic potential, you know?
Now, if they lifted weights and did everything we just said without doing cardio, does that say that they will lose the fat quicker than than doing the cardio? So endurance athletes, basically, they'll just lose the fat, but probably slower than people who don't do cardio?
I would say lose the fat slower, but also build less muscle.
Okay.
Because by doing the cardio, you're sending your body the signal that, hey, we still want to be efficient. Let's not build a whole ton of heavy muscle that is very inefficient. Like muscle is technically very inefficient, right? It requires a lot of energy to maintain, and it's very heavy for us to carry around if we're running and biking and things.
Right.
So, yes, that's basically it.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah.
Any questions or anything I missed on? I realized this was a lot of me just blabbing at you guys, but...
No, I think it was actually very detailed.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Anything that we should touch on that we did not yet, you think?
No.
No.
So, yeah, I mean, that pretty much sums it up. This was a very basic, and I say basic just because there's so much more that we could have said.
Mind blown.
But so very overview of how to lose body fat, which again is not the same as how to lose weight, because you know, a lot of people, they go on a very strict diet. They'll cut a bunch of calories and stuff, and they lose a bunch of weight on the scale, and a lot of that weight is water weight or muscle weight, actually. You know, they'll lose muscle. So,
no.
Yeah, exactly. No. So, and again, even if you're a woman, you want muscle, because muscle will make you look more defined and structured and all that stuff.
Yes.
All that good stuff. So, any closing words, Melissa?
Go muscles.
Go muscles. And I mean both the shellfish and what's on your arms. Cool. Well, if anyone out there has any questions or any future topic requests, just hit us up on social media. We are on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Run With Chestnut. Leave us a 5-star rating and review on Amazon, and I will see you guys later. Goodbye, Melissa.
Amazon?
Goodbye, Simon. Amazon?
You just said Amazon.
Did I say leave a 5-star rating review on Amazon if you can find us on Amazon? We're not really actually
Wait,
we are now
on Apple Music.
We are now on Amazon Music.
Yes.
So
don't sell us short.
if they even have reviews on Amazon Music, which I don't think because like Spotify doesn't have reviews, I just learned. If they have reviews on Amazon Podcasts or Amazon Music, leave us a 5-star rating review. Otherwise, leave it for us on iTunes. Thanks for that catch, Simon.
Yes.
Anyway, good to talk to you guys. And we will say hi next time.
Yep.
Goodbye.
Next time.
Goodbye.